an energy mutant sounds amazing until you realize you're not a superhero. You're a walking, talking, leaky Duracell battery with anxiety. Gambit turns playing cards into grenades. Havok fires cosmic tantrums he can't aim. Sunfire panic attacks like a nuclear furnace. And Dazzler weaponizes disco. But hold up, Buttercup. Why does it actually suck? Because these powers aren't gifts. They're glitches from Mutant Hell's HR department. Radiation roasting your insides, blast backfiring mid-hug, relationships exploding faster than Gambit's poker deck. Your body is a bomb, your life is a safety hazard, and there's no safe distance. Note: this video contains humor, exaggeration, and occasional disrespect toward fictional characters. Let's start with the most basic human need: touching things without blowing them up. If you're a telepath, you can just not read minds. If you're Wolverine, you can just keep your claws in your pants. But for energy mutants, the off switch is usually broken. Energy mutants don't get an off switch. There's no pause button. No, let me just vibe for 5 minutes without accidentally vaporizing the neighborhood mode. Your body is a loaded weapon 24/7 and the safety's been permanently disabled. Take Gambit. Remy LeBeau doesn't just charge cards. He charges literally anything he touches. Opening a bag of chips? Risky. Brushing your teeth? One wrong thought and you've blown your jaw off. The man can't even fidget without risking a Michael Bay origin story. And here's the part the 90s cartoons didn't tell you. His power was originally so out of control that he went to Mr. Sinister, the creepiest geneticist in Marvel history, and asked for a lobotomy. Think about that. He went to a man named Sinister and said, "Please slice into my brain so I don't explode." He literally chose brain damage over becoming New Sun, a version of himself so powerful he could accidentally incinerate the planet just by existing. That's not heroic, that's tragic. But the real knife in the gut? His love life. He falls for Rogue, a woman who puts you in a coma if she touches skin to skin. He's a kinetic bomb. She's the fuse. They spent years in a relationship that was basically look but don't touch. Pure psychological torture. And when Apocalypse turned him into the Horseman of Death, his powers got worse. He could charge air molecules inside someone's lungs and turn breathing into suffocation. But Gambit's not alone. Havok, Scott Summers' younger brother, shoots cosmic plasma that radiates outward in every direction. He's not a sniper, he's a tactical nuke with commitment issues, and the X-Men just let him stand next to people. And then there's Sunfire, powered by atomic fission after his country got nuked. Twice. Not great for your mental health. But hey, at least Gambit chose to be a thief before his powers ruined his life. Some energy mutants don't even get that luxury. They were born into a prison they can't escape, and the warden is their own biology. Scott Summers, Cyclops, is the poster child for this nightmare. His eyes aren't lasers, they're portals to a dimension of pure concussive force. He doesn't shoot heat, he shoots punch. And the only thing keeping him from bisecting the entire X-Mansion every time he opens his eyes is a ruby quartz visor. A visor so advanced NASA would weep trying to reverse engineer it. Yet it still fogs up if he breathes wrong. Imagine living your entire life seeing the world through a red filter. Romantic dinner? Red. Your child's first steps? Red. The sunset? Red. The only time he sees clearly is when he's closed his eyes to sleep. Which he probably can't do because he's too busy worrying about accidentally decapitating Professor X if his glasses slip off his nightstand. And here's the tragic part. This wasn't always his curse. Scott's lack of control came from a head injury during the plane crash that killed his parents. Healers could have fixed it. Resurrection should have reset it, but the damage became psychological, a mental block tied to childhood trauma so deep that even when Emma Frost offered to fix it permanently, Scott refused. Because living behind Ruby Quartz is easier than confronting the fact that his powers is just repressed grief with a blast radius. Scott is a control freak because he has to be. If he loses composure for 1 second, people die. He can't cry without risking property damage. He can't rub his eyes when he's tired. He's a man living behind the barrel of a loaded gun, and the gun is his own face. But at least Scott has aim. His brother Havok shoots plasma in every direction at once because his body absorbs cosmic radiation and has to expel it or explode. Scott at least gets precision. Alex gets hope nobody you care about is standing within 30 feet as his baseline. One brother can't make eye contact, the other can't stop glowing, and both of them are one sneeze away from leveling the tri-state area. If the physical toll wasn't brutal enough, Energy Mutants pay an even steeper price: their identity. Governments want to weaponize them, civilians fear them. At a certain point, you stop being a person and start being an object, a threat, something to control or contain. No one gets hit with this quite like Sunfire, a living symbol whose entire existence is national trauma crammed into spandex. Shiro Yoshida's mother survived Hiroshima, but only long enough to die of radiation poisoning after he was born. Shiro didn't just inherit mutant genes, he inherited the literal fallout of nuclear war. His powers aren't just fire, they're plasma hot enough to vaporize steel, tapping the same energy that killed millions and leveled cities. And in classic Marvel cruelty, Sunfire's greedy uncle turned all of that into a weapon. The man dragged him to Hiroshima, made him touch radioactive soil to trigger his mutant powers, then wrapped him in a costume styled after Japan's rising sun flag and sent him to attack the US Capitol as a one-man act of revenge. When Shiro found out his uncle had murdered his father, he killed Tomo and turned himself in. That's not agency, that's trauma with a postal code. It didn't stop there. Apocalypse kidnapped Sunfire, using him as one of the 12 mutants whose powers could be siphoned to make Apocalypse a god. The Japanese government later locked him up when his overloads threatened Tokyo. Scientists shot him full of zero fluid, turning half his body black and poisoning him with conflicting energies. He's been possessed, had his legs cut off, and turned him into a horseman of Apocalypse, because apparently cosmic beings love to keep this guy on the subscription box of suffering plan. Sunfire's entire history is, what fresh hell can we put this man through today? And the answer is always, something more existentially dreadful. This is not just Sunfire's curse. Gambit was literally sold by the Thieves Guild for his mutation, experimented on by Mr. Sinister, lobotomized and weaponized at every step. Even Apocalypse weaponized him, cranking his powers up until he could literally suffocate you by charging the air you breathe. In Havok, he's never just Alex. He's always Cyclops' brother, his own name a warning label. When you're an energy mutant, you're not a person. You're a battery, a bomb, and a monument to someone else's nightmares. But the cruelest joke, even when you want to be normal, your powers won't let you. Intimacy is impossible when you're a loaded gun. Energy mutants don't just struggle with controlling their abilities. They can't have relationships without risking the lives of everyone they care about. Dating an energy mutant isn't romance, it's bomb disposal with dinner attached. Let's go back to Gambit and Rogue, because their relationship is the Romeo and Juliet of the X-Men. If Juliet put you in a coma and Romeo turned your anniversary gift into a pipe bomb, Rogue absorbs powers and memories through skin contact, which means touching anyone could kill them. Gambit charges objects with kinetic energy, which means his entire body is a potential explosive if he loses control. Two people who literally cannot touch each other without catastrophic consequences fell in love anyway. They spent years dancing around physical contact, stealing moments through power-dampening technology or alternate realities where the rules were different. They finally got married, and Rogue had to wear a collar that suppressed her mutation just so they could consummate their relationship without killing each other. That's not romance. That's two people so desperate for connection they're willing to lobotomize their own biology just to hold hands. And it's not like Rogue didn't try other options. She dated Magneto because his magnetic powers canceled out her absorption abilities, meaning she could actually touch him. Think about that. The only man Rogue could have a normal physical relationship with was a mass-murdering terrorist decades older than her who kept flip-flopping between villain and anti-hero. He even proposed marriage, which she turned down because apparently even Rogue has standards. The fact that this was her best option for intimacy tells you everything about how screwed energy mutants are when it comes to love. Cyclops can't make eye contact. Think about that. The windows to the soul boarded up. To see the woman he loves, he needs a psychic middleman, Jean Grey, entering his mind just to show him her face. Without that, a loving gaze becomes a murder sentence. Imagine never seeing your partner smile with your own naked eyes. And Dazzler? Every crowded bar, every concert, every date in a loud restaurant becomes sensory overload. Her powers make her a star, but they also isolate her completely because normal social situations are physically unbearable. Sunfire's literal radioactive touch means loneliness isn't just emotional, it's biological. You can't build a life with someone when your existence is a threat to theirs. Energy mutants don't get love stories. They get isolation with occasional moments of desperate compromise, and even those come with a body count. Oh yeah, you've got flashy powers. You're special, but here's the punchline. Energy mutants aren't just cursed. They're cosmically screwed by the X gene itself. Other mutants get claws, which are useful. Telepathy, which is powerful. Weather control, which is dramatic. Energy mutants get existential dread in laser form and a lifetime subscription to therapy they can't afford. Their powers don't just hurt them physically, they damage them emotionally, psychologically, and socially in ways that make normal life impossible. Let's talk about their worst moments, because misery loves company and these 5 have plenty to share. Gambit nearly destroyed Earth when Mr. Sinister amplified his powers to new sun levels, turning him into a reality-warping threat who could step between dimensions and obliterate entire worlds. He had to kill that version of himself. Imagine staring into a mirror and seeing a version of you that became a god, only to realize that God is a monster. That is the fear Remy lives with every day, that deep down, he is only a few bad days away from ending the world. Cyclops killed Professor X while possessed by the Phoenix Force. Sure, he was possessed, but it was his blast that did it. It was his body. That is a trauma that doesn't wash off. He went from the ultimate Boy Scout, the teacher's pet, to the man who murdered his own father figure. The X gene took one person who believed in him and forced God to kill him. That is Shakespearean levels of cruelty. Havok's power flares nearly killed his X-Factor teammates repeatedly because his cosmic plasma doesn't care about friendly fire. He has quit teams, fled into space, and joined the Avengers just to get away from the guilt of hurting his friends. He's constantly running, but he can't outrun the reactor in his chest. Sunfire became a horseman of apocalypse, lost his legs in battle, and spent decades as Japan's national shame given superpowers. He was manipulated, experimented on, and turned into famine. His body was twisted and broken until he wasn't even sure if he was human anymore. And Dazzler, she got depowered, repowered, and spent years underestimated because sparkles don't look like suffering. Even though her sensory overload is constant torture, she's died and come back, been a herald of Galactus, and fought literal vampires. Yet people still treat her like a pop star with a light show. The X gene didn't just give them powers. It gave them isolation, fear, and the knowledge that they're one bad day away from becoming mass murderers. Every energy mutant is haunted by the same question: what happens when I lose control? And the answer is always the same. People die, cities burn, relationships end. You become the monster everyone always suspected you were. Their powers aren't gifts, they're curses wrapped in special effects. And the worst part is they can't even quit. You can't return your mutation to the factory. You're stuck with it until the day you die. Assuming your own biology doesn't kill you first. And after all that, you'd think they'd quit. Retire to a beach somewhere. Maybe open a bakery where the only thing exploding is a croissant. But no, Gambit still charges cards. Cyclops still leads while wearing a leash made of ruby quartz. Havok fights alongside people he could vaporize. Sunfire burns with his country's worst nightmare. Dazzler lights up stages knowing every show is sensory hell. Because that's the real joke. They keep going anyway, not because their powers make them heroes, but because they refuse to let the curse win. The X gene didn't give these guys powers. It gave them a lifetime subscription to anxiety and insurance premiums that would bankrupt Tony Stark. But here's the punchline. They stay. Gambit, Cyclops, Havok, they wake up in bodies that want to destroy the world, and they choose to point that destruction at the bad guys. That isn't a superpower, that is spite mixed with hope. You're not asking to be a superhero, you're asking to be a radioactive piñata. Hit like before I accidentally blow up your screen. Subscribe for more misery and tell me, which curse would you pick?